With the help of Zadok, who was a descendant of Eleazar, and of Ahimelech, who was a descendant of Ithamar, David divided Aaron's descendants into groups according to their various duties. Eleazar's descendants were divided into 16 groups, and Ithamar's into 8. For there were more family leaders among the descendants of Eleazar. All tasks were assigned to the various groups by means of sacred lots, so that no preference would be shown, for there were many qualified officials serving God in the sanctuary from among the descendants of both Eleazar and Ithamar. So this honestly really more so describes how the duties were divided up, not so much the actual duties that were assigned. What's up, cool people? My name is Matt. Welcome back to our Bible study. Okay, so we're looking at 1 Chronicles chapter 24. Last chapter was talking about the duties of the Levites. Now we're getting more specifically into the priests, which, again, like, because of the temple being built in place of the tabernacle, and there not being any need to carry the tabernacle around. I mean, that was what a lot of the Levites' duties revolved around when the tabernacle was a thing. But because of that changing, there was a reassignment of the duties of the Levites. I'm not real sure how that's going to affect the priests. I guess we'll just have to read on in this chapter and see what happens if it seems like there's anything different. So, here we go. 1 Chronicles chapter 24. This is how Aaron's descendants, the priests, were divided into groups for service. The sons of Aaron were Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. But Nadab and Abihu died before their father, and they had no sons. So only Eleazar and Ithamar were left to carry on as priests. And if I remember right, the reason Nadab and Abihu died young and suddenly like that was because they essentially they didn't take their priestly duties seriously and the learning thereof. And so I forget what exactly it was, if they, like, took more than they were supposed to from the offerings, or if they didn't do them correctly. There was something involved with doing the offerings, I think, that they just not only neglected, but, like, after a while intentionally kept doing and essentially abusing their privilege. I think it had something to do with taking portions that they weren't supposed to. But anyway. So, yeah. That left only 2 of Aaron's sons to carry on as priests instead of all 4 of them. But anyway. So, let's read on. See how it describes their responsibilities here. With the help of Zadok, who was a descendant of Eleazar, and of Ahimelech, who was a descendant of Ithamar, David divided Aaron's descendants into groups according to their various duties. Eleazar's descendants were divided into 16 groups, and Ithamar's into 8. For there were more family leaders among the descendants of Eleazar. All tasks were assigned to the various groups by means of sacred lots, so that no preference would be shown. For there were many qualified officials serving God in the sanctuary from among the descendants of both Eleazar and Ithamar. Shemaiah, son of Nethanel, a Levite, acted as secretary and wrote down the names and assignments in the presence of the king, the officials, Zadok the priest, Ahimelech, son of Abiathar, and the family leaders of the priests and Levites. The descendants of Eleazar and Ithamar took turns casting lots. Okay, so it hasn't gotten into the responsibilities yet. This is more so just describing how they were divided up. And they wanted to make sure there was no partiality to it. So while casting lots might not exactly have been essentially, rolling the dice, it was not too dissimilar to that idea. Or like picking names out of a hat or something like that. And the reason they, well, in addition to not showing any partiality, it was also another reason for doing it this way was because, like, as it mentions here, somewhere, there were many qualified officials from among those descendants. So it's like, look, we don't think that any particular person is, like, massively more qualified than another for any particular duties here. So we're just gonna assign it sort of randomly. Although casting lots was also something that they did to kind of, like, leave room for God to move and, directly put his will into effect. So, there's, I guess now we're going to get into the divisions of all this, making sure I didn't miss any notes. Also, it's just, the wording in here, I'll admit, confused me for a sec. But it's like, it's saying, okay, Zadok was a descendant of Eleazar, and Ahimelech was a descendant of Ithamar. I almost thought for a second that it was saying Zadok was a descendant of both Eleazar and Ahimelech, but no. So, they're casting lots to decide which branches of the priestly descent will get which responsibilities. So then in verse 7 it mentions that the first lot fell to Jehoiarib, second to Jediah, third to Harim, fourth to Seorim, fifth lot to Malchijah, sixth to Mehiamin, something like that, seventh to Hakaz, eighth to Abijah, ninth to Jeshua, 10th to Shechaniah, 11th to Eliashib, 12th to Jakim, 13th to Huppah, 14th to Jeshibeab, 15th to Bilgah, 16th to Immer, 17th to Hezer, 18th to Hapizez, the 19th to Pethahiah, 20th to Jehezkel, 21st to Jachin, 22nd to Gamel, 23rd to Deliah, and the 24th to Maaziah. Each group carried out its appointed duties in the house of the Lord according to the procedures established by their ancestor Aaron in obedience to the commands of the Lord, the God of Israel. And it doesn't even say what the different responsibilities were for these different people. It just says which lot went to which person. Interesting. So there's your order anyway, and yes, it's a total of 24 because there were, I think it mentioned, 16 from Eleazar's descendants and 8 from Ithamar's. Not really too much else to say to that. It was literally just describing the order of casting lots. Alright, so we got the order of the lots that were cast and who they fell to. And then we continue in verse 20 here. These were the other family leaders descended from Levi. From the descendants of Amram, the leader was Shebuel. From the descendants of Shebuel, the leader was Jediah. From the descendants of Rehabiah, the leader was Ishiah. From the descendants of Izhar, the leader was Shelomith. From the descendants of Shelomith, the leader was Jahath. From the descendants of Hebron, Jeriah was the leader. Amariah was second. Jahaziel was third. And Jechamiam was fourth. From the descendants of Uzziel, the leader was Micah. From the descendants of Micah, the leader was Shamir, along with Ishiah, the brother of Micah. From the descendants of Ishiah, the leader was Zechariah. From the descendants of Merari, the leaders were Mali and Mushi. I'm never sure how to pronounce those exactly. From the descendants of Jaaziah, the leader was Bino. From the descendants of Merari through Jaaziah, the leaders were Bino, Shoham, Zachar, and Ibri. From the descendants of Mali, the leader was Eleazar, though he had no sons. From the descendants of Kish, the leader was Jerahmeel. From the descendants of Mushi, the leaders were Mali, Eder, and Jeremoth. These were the descendants of Levi in their various families. Like the descendants of Aaron, they were assigned to their duties by means of sacred lots, without regard to age or rank. Lots were drawn in the presence of King David, Zadok, Ahimelech, and the family leaders of the priests and the Levites. So, did that have anything to do with how the duties were assigned for the Levites in the previous chapter? Maybe? I don't know. But it still doesn't describe which people had which responsibilities. It's just like, okay, here's how we divided things up and the order that the lots fell in. And then it gets into other family leaders descended from Levi. Because, the priests were also descended from Levi. Just, one particular branch from that, being the descendants of Aaron. Okay. Seems like the only notes we have in this whole chapter are related to some of the names down here. At Shebuel, Hebrew shows Shubael, which is a variant spelling, and that could be compared to chapter 23, verse 16, and chapter 26, verse 24. So it was probably spelled Shebuel in those instances. So then, rather than go with the original Hebrew spelling here, they just, for consistency's sake, made it Shebuel in this chapter as well. The translators. Note here at Shelomith, Hebrew has Shelomoth, which is a variant spelling, also found in chapter 23, verse 18. So, yeah, this definitely seems to have some overlap with what was mentioned in the previous chapter, which is unsurprising, because that was breaking down responsibilities of the Levites more generally, especially the Levites who weren't specifically the priests. Okay. Where it says Jeriah was leader, Hebrew says from the descendants of Jeriah. Compare 23:19. Okay. Either way, then it would just be saying that, okay, from the descendants of Hebron, Jeriah was the father figure, and then you had Amariah after him, and so I guess maybe that right there was covering a few different generations of that branch of the Levites, maybe? Either that, or it's just Jiraiya was maybe like the oldest son. And not quite sure. It's also not really mentioned why or how certain people were, like, family leaders. I mean, the most obvious reason would be that, oh, it was the first... this guy was the firstborn son of this, you know, important ancestor. Therefore, it was just kind of assumed, okay, you get all the stuff in terms of the inheritance, and unless there are extenuating circumstances, you're going to be the one named in the lineage for your generation. At least the first one named. Okay. So this honestly really more so describes how the duties were divided up, not so much the actual duties that were assigned. But, you know, with it talking about the priests in here, of course, they were primarily responsible for, you know, performing the sacrifices and purifying any of the instruments in the, well, from this point forward, the temple. As well as they were probably more so responsible for any sort of rulings related to purity laws and the like. Anything that had to do with cleansing things outside of the temple probably also fell upon them, or at least, you know, describing how that should be carried out and making those decisions. Pretty much anything related to keeping the, you know, sacrificial and purity laws ultimately fell upon the priests. But anyway, that is all I've got for 1 Chronicles chapter 24. Okay, so, like, I really kind of wish it would have described what duties were being assigned to the divisions of the priests and whatnot, but we didn't really get that. We just got the method and the order in which they were assigned. Who knows who had which duties? I mean, maybe it says later or in some other place, but a little more info on that would be appreciated. So, I don't really have too much else to say because of that. So, as always, like and share if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel, click the bell to get updates when I post new videos. Look down in the description for links to social media pages and all sorts of good stuff like that. Supporter page, Discord server, all that. And down below there, leave your thoughts and questions in the comment section. So that's going to do it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you soon for another video. Whatever the case is, until next time, stay cool, people.